In today's video, we're gonna be getting the platinum for Choo Charles. Yep, that's right. This game's about a train that kills you. And yes, you saw the thumbnail correctly. Charles absolutely railed me. I also just found out this game was made by only one person, so mad respect to them. And if you have any recommendations on what games I should plat, make sure to tell me in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we're getting super close to my goal of 3,000 subscribers. Okay, I would like to mention that Choo Charles is a 2 out of 10 difficulty and has a total of 25 trophies, with only one trophy being kinda bad, which is collect some collectibles. And the collectibles thing's not even that bad, I'm just being a little bit. Oh my god! Starting off the game, we spawned on a canoe that was bringing us to the island. You know, because Choo Charles likes to be alone, so he can do whatever he wants. Spawning into the island, the first thing we did was try to get into the shed-like building. But just like every game, of course it had to be locked, so we had to go find a key. So I made my way over to this building, and once I got inside, I grabbed the key. Once I went back to the shed, I ended up opening it, giving me my first trophy. Once we entered the building, we ended up seeing the train we're going to use to clap Charles. Once we turned on the train to take it for a test run, Charles ended up attacking us. And then the guy showing us around the island decided just to cannonball towards Charles. And then Charles ended up getting his hands on him and doing unspeakable things to him. What the fuck? Then I ended up going up to the guy to let him say his last words. I quickly went to the next house to do my next quest. Once I activated the quest and went to go talk to the guy, he wanted me to get a bunch of scrap for him. Once I went to his house, I started collecting all the scrap, and once I picked up the last one, it ended up giving me a trophy. I also got a new milestone because you guys care about that, right?
You need to shut the...
For my next objective, I had to go all the way to this NPC, so I ended up going on a complete voyage to get there. And while I was just minding my own business, Charles came out of nowhere and tried to molest me. And obviously I tried to run away, but I failed horribly. I then made it to the next guy to start my next quest. He wanted me to grab some stupid box for him because he was too lazy to do it himself. He wants to get off the island, he should stop being a lazy bitch. Anyways, once I talked to him, I ended up getting my next trophy. Once I got back to my train, I ended up upgrading everything like my speed, my health, and my damage. That's also what scrap is for in this game. It allows you to upgrade your train or just repair its health. Then I ended up going to my next quest, and on my way there, I ended up dying to Charles again. One thing that's really stupid about this game is every time Charles attacks you early on, you're pretty much just forced to die and go back to a checkpoint. Pretty much all the way up until endgame, you're just hiding from Charles because he's scary. I also forgot to mention on the rail tracks, there's these switches that decide which way you go. I ended up making it to the next NPC, and the quest she gave me was to go inside of the house and just get the leftover scrap that she had. Once we ended up getting to their house, I started collecting all the scrap, and once I got my last one, it ended up giving me a trophy. One thing that's really nice about this game is every single time you finish a quest, it just gives you a trophy. It's amazing because every time I do it, it makes me not want to jump off a building. Anyways, right outside the one person's house in the backyard, there was a witch who also had a side quest. For the witch's quest, she wanted me to cross the pond which had food at the other side. But while I was trying to cross, there was this fish named Barry who kept trying to bite me in the balls. Anyways, I ended up crossing the swamp after what felt like 100 years. And then once I got the item I needed, I immediately had to go back. Anyways, once I got back to the witch, I ended up giving her the item and it gave me a trophy for completing the quest. This quest was almost just as annoying as America's politics.
That's what I'm saying.
So I ended up getting to my next NPC and it actually ended up being Andrew Tate. The quest Andrew Tate wanted me to do was to unlock a chest to give him an item. Once I got the chest unlocked, there ended up being a drawing inside. I really just did all that crap for a stupid piece of paper. Once I got back to the NPC and gave him his piece of paper, he ended up giving me a trophy. Then I went to the next NPC to do his quest. He pretty much said if I save his house, he'll give me a weapon in return. And obviously I turned around and just let his house burn down. Nah, but I ended up going on top of the hill and just shooting water over the house. And then once I went back down and talked to him, he ended up giving me a weapon for completing the quest and then giving me a trophy. Next I decided to work on the main story, so I snuck inside of a cave to find one of Charles's eggs. While I was down here, I ended up finding people with shotguns that started attacking me. I ended up luring him outside, then I got tag teamed by him and Charles. Once I made my way back to the cave, I ended up grabbing one of the eggs, and then once I left the mine, it ended up giving me a trophy for completing the quest. Okay, I'd just like to mention real quick that 0% of you guys are actually subscribed to my channel. So if you're enjoying the videos, please make sure to smash that subscribe button. So I ended up making it to the next NPC, and she ended up wanting me to go into the woods and find a bunch of papers. This side quest ended up being complete garbage because I died like 1,000 times. But after what felt like an eternity, I ended up getting the final paper. And once I got back to the NPC, it ended up giving me a super sexy trophy. I don't even know what happened here, but I just talked to an NPC and got a trophy. Then I ran back to my train, upgrading my speed fully, giving me another trophy. And then I immediately went to bed for the night. And then immediately starting off the next day, I ended up making it back to the next NPC. And for this next quest, I had to sneak into a mine, so I grabbed a bunch of dynamite to blow open the door. And because I'm retarded... When I set off the mine, I just ended up dying because I was too close.
You stupid.
I really do make these platinums a lot harder because how stupid I am. But once I made it back to the NPC, he ended up giving me a trophy. Next, I went over to the lighthouse and I saw this girl who looked like she got in a fight with Mike Tyson. All she wanted me to do was go to the shed and grab some fuse boxes to fix the power. Because, you know, that's a super easy and simple task for me to do. Once I made it back to the girl and completed my quest, she ended up giving me a trophy. On my way to the next quest, Charles ended up attacking me again, and of course I died because I can't do anything. For this next quest, I had to go into another cave and steal one of the eggs. I'm gonna be honest, I'm starting to see a repeat in some of these quests and it's getting a little bit boring. But boring or not, I ended up grabbing that egg, and once I got out of the mine, it gave me a trophy. Well, I ended up going to my next NPC and he wanted me to set a bunch of bombs on the bridge to blow it up. We're pretty much just setting up the bombs on the bridge to kill Charles later in the game. Once I got back to the NPC, I ended up getting a trophy for finishing the quest. Then I ended up going back to my train, maxing out the damage, giving me another trophy. And now I'm absolutely jacked. Then I went to the next NPC and he wanted me to enter this camp to grab some item for him. While I was here, I had to lure out a bunch of enemies and kill them with the train. Then I walked into this room and I saw a bunch of parts and I ended up crafting a gun called Bob. Once I picked up the weapon, it ended up giving me a trophy. Even though he has a really stupid name, Bob is actually the best weapon in the entire game. For my next quest, I had to go to a cave and grab the last egg of the entire game. Oh, and as usual, I ended up dying to Charles again. Once I made my way to the cave, I started looking around. There was a bunch of enemies down there. After dying a bunch of times, I decided just to run through the cave and eventually I ended up grabbing the egg. While I was down here, I ended up unlocking a chest and there was a paint can inside which will help me with collectibles later on. Once I ended up taking the lift to get out of the cave, it ended up giving me a trophy. For my next quest, the guy wanted me to climb a tower and grab a bunch of files for him. I thought this was going to be a super easy and simple quest, but halfway up the tower, I ended up running out of spaces to walk, so I had to start doing parkour. Once I got to the top of the tower, I ended up grabbing the files, and then once I went back to the NPC, it gave me a trophy. And then I stumbled into a cave and I ended up unlocking this chest. Once I got the chest unlocked, there was just a pickle jar inside. I ended up bringing the pickle jar to the pickle lady. She looks like your average Karen mixed with a meth head. Anyways, talking to her gave me a trophy. Next, I ended up making my way to the Temple of Charles. What I'm supposed to do at the Temple of Charles is put all 3 eggs on the pedestal and it's supposed to just piss off the train. So once I made my way to the temple, I ended up opening the doors and it gave me a trophy. And then I immediately died. Once I made my way back, it ended up triggering a cutscene, then pretty much from there, everything went to hell. Charles literally went sicko mode right here.
Shut the fuck up!
Then it immediately threw me into a boss fight, and I died like 3 times before anything actually happened. I guess I wasn't lying about the title where Charles literally railed me.
Huh?
Anyways, because I obviously wasn't ready for the boss fight, I ended up going back to look for more scrap. Once I had enough scrap, I ended up maxing out my train's defense, giving me another trophy. And then after that, I went back around the map just to get extra scrap so I could heal my train in the boss fight. After dying a bunch of times in the boss fight, I ended up finding out the flamethrower slows down Charles. Once I found out this strategy, I ended up beating Charles on my 2nd attempt. After this cutscene was done playing, I ended up getting a trophy. Okay, now for this last trophy, I have to go around the map and find a bunch of paint cans. But you know how annoying that can be, so I'm just gonna skip straight to the point. Once I found the last one, I ended up getting my trophy. And then that immediately led on to the platinum. Well, that's going to be all for today's video. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure to subscribe. If you have any recommendations on what I should play in the future, make sure to tell me in the comments below.